Let's clap us in. 13th of May, Our Lady of Fatima. I'm going to talk to you about the miracle that we witnessed in Sydney on Saturday night. It was raining all day Saturday, all day, torrential. It cleared up. We had the Our Lady of Fatima Rosary procession on Saturday at St. Mary's Cathedral. Rained all day. Stopped for the Mass. Skies were still clear for the procession. We got through the entire procession. I kid you not. We walked the statue through the doors of the cathedral church. Father Chris then said, "Thanks everyone for coming. Get home safely. We'll see you at the Walk with Christ. God bless you." And then the heavens opened up and it was torrential rain for the next 2 hours.
Are you serious?
It was honestly, it was our little Fatima miracle in Sydney.
That's incredible.
It was such a great event.
Thanks.
That was one of two massive events that the Archdiocese of Sydney have put on. The next one is going to be the Walk with Christ on the 2nd of June. And those details we'll put up on the screen. But we should be getting upwards of 20,000 people for that, if not more. Okay? And I'm relying on a lot of our Maronite friends and family here. It was a beautiful turnout for the relics of St. Charbel and the replica tomb. I reckon if all of you put your man and woman power into getting to the Walk with Christ in the city on the 2nd of June, it's going to be a massive event. And
so have we started?
Oh, yeah, we started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we started.
Everyone.
We started.
See how I was just, I was in. I knew that.
This is we make a joke about this every week. This is the soft open.
Yes.
This is the soft open. This is what we do. So it's going to be massive. We want 50,000 people in the city. The City of Sydney have been very cooperative with us. We're organising it properly. It's going to commence at Martin Place. We're going to walk the streets with the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. Catholics of all ages, Christians of all ages, even our interfaith brothers and sisters, just come along. It's all about community, which we're going to get onto very, very shortly. Amen. But a very warm welcome to our very special guest today, Director of Sports Services for Catholic Schools New South Wales, Robert Rush. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Thank you for coming on. I think just, if you don't mind, before we ask a little bit about yourself and things, I think it's important just to mention we do have a show sponsor that we would love to thank very quickly, which is MJ Podiatry. So thank you again to MJ Podiatry, and to remind everyone at home, MJ Podiatry is a mobile home visit network servicing all throughout Sydney. They're an all-round podiatry service, handing out general treatments, anything for sport. NDIS and home care packaging are offered as well. For any pains, injuries, custom-made orthotics, any advice on footwear, as we always say, anything you need, MJ Podiatry has not just your back, but your feet as well. So, so contact the team at MJ Podiatry on 0412 389 278 or email them at info@mjpodiatry.com.au. And don't forget that ATG10 promo code for 10% off. All right. Thank you for waiting so patiently, Rob.
No, not at all. Not at all.
We've got our contractual obligations out of the way. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the great work that you do. But first, before we get into all of that, a little bit about yourself and what thrust you into this role and the exciting things that are happening in your life.
Well, thank you. Once again, thank you very much for having me. Greatly appreciated. So apart from having a number of gorgeous young children, so that's keeping me very busy at the moment. But otherwise, I guess I'm Director of Sport at Catholic Schools New South Wales Sports Services. What that means is my team and I run the representative sport program for primary and secondary systemic Catholic schools in New South Wales. And we also run what we call RIMPJP, a bit confusing, some of the private independent schools as well. So, for example, in terms of rugby league, Greg's Campbelltown, Dom's Kingswood, they're quite strong rugby league historic schools that are also in our program, and our friends at Christian Brothers Lewisham. So we run a few of those schools as well as some of the ladies' independent schools such as Santa Sabina, Loreto Kirribilli, St Scholastica's Glebe, and the school in North Sydney, Monty St Angelo. So lovely. So keeps us busy.
Keeps you very busy. And so we talk about pathways.
Yes.
And identifying these great gifts in our young people.
Yes.
specifically in our Catholic school system.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a pool to select from. Talk to us about how it is that you're engaging the schools and what it is that you're offering. A little bit about, because you're the first type of person we've had on this show when it comes to things like pathways and developmental. So I'd love to hear a bit about that.
So in New South Wales, in the education system, it's approximately 60% the government schools, 20% independent schools, 20% us. So it's quite a big range. And we're very proud to say that we think our talent's exceptional. And to use a cricketing term, we bat overs. So we're very proud of what we do. But the challenge for us is, how do we find these kids? So we have a variety of different ways. So firstly, we have primary sport. Our primary sport is broken up into the MacKillop and the Paulding group. MacKillop is the Sydney Archdiocese, Parramatta Diocese, and all the southern New South Wales. Paulding is basically Broken Bay and all the northern New South Wales teams. Mm-hmm. In secondary, it's a bit easier. It's called CCC, Combined Catholic Colleges, so that makes it a bit easier. So our challenge is find the talent, and then once we have, or I guess correctly picking the talent we already have. And for different sports, it works in different ways, which I'm happy to explain. Once we get that talent, we play against the independent and the high school sector. Okay. And off that, we normally change a little bit from sport to sport, but in the vast majority, they then pick a New South Wales team, and then the New South Wales team plays against the other states, and then the Australian team whatnot gets picked. Where it gets confusing is sports such as rugby league, which is very powerful on the East Coast. That's not so Australia-wide. So rather than having all these other teams, they play against what's called the combined states.
Okay.
So rugby league and rugby union are slightly different because they are East Coast sports predominantly. But growing. Look at the new North Sydney WA team that they're talking about.
North Sydney Bears.
Yes.
Yeah, they're hoping to make them the Perth Bears or Western Australia or something.
Okay, interesting.
Yes. Anyway, they're trying to move them to Western Australia and get them as a 19th team. Interesting.
Yeah. Awesome. So what are some of the other sports? So we're going to talk, we're rugby league mad here.
Yes.
We know that. But
Yes.
what are some of the other sports that we're looking at with pathways, and how are we getting those very gifted students into the elite levels of their respective sports?
You'll be glad to know that this year we have a brand new sport joining us. We can announce lawn bowls.
Lawn bowls.
Important, they're very important sports.
My kind of sport with a beer in my hand.
Yes. So we take away the beer here, but certainly lawn bowls is our new sport. But basically we have approximately 22 sports. It ranges from your traditional rugby league, football, AFL, cricket. Basketball's growing, actually. Basketball's really big these days. Netball's also very big for us. And then some smaller sports such as rowing, which is not quite so big, but basically baseball, most of the sports you can imagine, so give or take 22 sports, triathlon, also your historical sports such as swimming, athletics, cross country. Our largest event is our cross country coming in a few weeks, which has about 2,500 people. 2,500 students turn up and about 4,000 parents and siblings.
Amazing. When you talk about a sport, for example, like baseball, okay, I played T-ball as I grew up, and I got to that level where I was going to transition into baseball, but basketball won my heart over, and that's what I played all my life ultimately. But when you talk about a sport like baseball, we're not really known for that sport in Australia. Are there pathways or opportunities for a young man or woman who expresses or who basically shows they've got a skill set that could be right at the top? Is there something that gets them into a place like America or Japan, or is there something along that way that you guys are developing or have developed?
So baseball's a good example because it's very big in America and actually quite big out in our Northwest. So our Northwest is a very strong hotbed for baseball. What we're looking to do, especially in baseball, but across a variety of sports, try and expand ourselves and look for opportunities for these students through tertiary education, such as US scholarships. So we recently met with the US consul about how to reach out to these college associations to find further opportunities for our students. It turns out actually what supposedly isn't quite high demand in America are female rugby players.
Wow.
So they're after female rugby players. I guess with the Olympics and the gold medals, that is what he's pushing things these days. But certainly across swimming, athletics, baseball, basketball. There are so many colleges in America. We're just trying to find good contact points and provide opportunities for our Catholic students.
Amazing. One of the things I've loved to have seen these last few years is the rise in not only skill set but popularity when it comes to the female sport, whatever code it might be. In the NCAA that we saw, like Caitlin Clark in the basketball, the WNRL is just going gangbusters at the moment. They're just growing in popularity. NRLW, sorry. Yes. Good. That's why he's here. That's why I wear the collar. But to see how this has developed and the popularity that just people just jump behind this, the female code, amazing.
Well, what's interesting is some of the sports like netball have always had a high participation rate, but probably haven't had the amount of coverage which it deserves. And then on top of that, your female rugby league, your rugby union is just going gangbusters. I heard some statistic that female rugby league is like the fastest growing sport in Australia. So true that is. I think it was on NRL.com, but yes. Supposedly it is going gangbusters. Yeah. And it's just so good to see these sports which have female role models, which both boys and girls can look up to.
Yeah.
And it's a great spectacle to watch. I love watching ladies footy. It's unreal. It's the passion, the intensity. Yeah,
some of the hits that they put on.
Yeah, that's right.
The speed, the skill set, amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And there will be a Bulldogs team next year.
And there will be a Bulldogs team next year.
Good. That's true. They did the Lisa Fiolo Cup or something like that. It's some lower
Yes. They've got a system
lower
there,
grade women's team. Yeah, they won the comp, the Bulldogs women's team. Anyway, this is just Bulldog stuff. But
it's good to be passionate.
We tend to slip into those things a lot.
That's right.
Well, talking about passion for league, let's just little caveat. Who's your NRL team?
The mighty South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Oh gosh, that's
they're on struggle street a bit this season.
They are. Yes, it probably hasn't been our best season, but hopefully, with the unfortunate moving on of the coach, which I think was unfortunate, but hopefully out of this we can pick things up because we are coming off a low base.
There you go.
Well, we'll be having some interesting conversations in a little bit about that.
So talk to us about New South Wales combined Catholic colleges for a little bit. You're not a weekly kind of sporting competition. Talk to us about how that all works. Like get us into the detail of that. So as an example, if I'm a young passionate rugby league player in my high school, I'm in grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, whatever it might be. How do I get noticed by these types of people if I'm playing? Does the MCC still exist?
No, so they've moved to
I'm showing my age now.
So they've moved into conferences. So often our rugby league people play for a club. So by the time you get in your 15s, your junior pathways are shown. So they're junior pathways. But in terms of the school, the Catholics, for example, we'll just pick on Sydney Catholic Schools, the Archdiocese. So they're big. I was speaking to one of their sports administrators, and they were saying they have 5,000 matches on a Thursday across a year. Now that's basketball, rugby league, tennis, so 5,000 matches, just the buses, the referees. It's certainly very, very big, the Archdiocese. But their sport is on a Thursday, so you would turn up and you probably train a Tuesday, and then you would play on a Thursday. Rugby league is an interesting sport because of the proud history, but also the fact that there is a physical element of danger with sports like basketball. It's probably more emotional damage that you lose 100-10. But in rugby league, if you were to lose 80-0, there might be a physical, dangerous element to it because you were mismatched. So what Sydney Catholic Schools has done in their wisdom, and I agree with this, is they've split their competition up. So normally a school will play a school across all its sports, but rugby league, I believe, is separate just because they want to match schools that are appropriate strength. So some of the very strong schools at the moment are Patrician Brothers Fairfield, which I believe you've got some association with, Holy Cross Ride. I actually believe Holy Cross Ride pipped Fairfield last Thursday, which is a surprise. But then also Marston College Roundwick's always very strong coming through. And then Lewisham, Christian Brothers Lewisham has very strong years. Same with Morris North Shore. Same with, I believe, Morris Cogger as well in the A team. Then you've got this weaker B competition just because the schools aren't as big or the history, which I believe has your former schools of Bankstown involved, St. Charbel's, De La Salle Reevesby. So huge, like Trinity Auburn. Actually, which is a very strong sporting school, Trinity. So it's actually very good across its sport. So certainly Thursday sport is the way that you would get noticed. Then you get picked in as the Sydney team. We basically have a Sydney team come through, which plays a Metro team, which is Para and Broken Bay, plus Northern Country, Southern Country, and the President's Cup team. They all play off in our Rugby League Championship, which is coming up in a few weeks at St Mary's.
Okay.
So a lot of talent on show there. So
can I just ask, if you're playing in that A grade competition with the sort of say rugby league, that is A grade competitions, are you more likely to get scouted over the B grade competitions, or is it sort of an equal thing, but we're just, because there could be players in the B grade competitions who are just as, I guess, impressive as those in the A grade?
Certainly. So I think people keep their, in terms of our selectors, it's across the board.
Yeah.
But with rugby league pathways, from a junior level now, they really get into the kids and they put you on these club pathways. So certainly the vast majority of the better kids, especially from the city. Now the country is a little bit different because at least we have a weekly comp, but in the country sometimes there are no weekly comps due to the tyranny of distance. So you can get some southern northern kids you never heard of, especially in the under 15s, who just turn up and it's just unreal. They've come literally out of nowhere, like it's out of Gallipoli. The kid turns up and just run. It's amazing. But certainly for the city kids, a lot of the kids by certainly the opens, if not the 15s, have already started into their pathways through clubs.
Clubs. Potentially these kids are playing up to, or if not more than 2 games a week?
I would say 2 games a week during season. So it would be for their high school, yes,
and then for their club team.
Yes. And the NRL have put a lot of protocols around resting players. So they really do look at game management. So and to make things more confusing, so they don't do not play each other for the opens. There's also the NRL Schoolboy Cup, which we saw a few years ago. So they play other Catholic schools. They also play basically the best of the best, the Top Gun of it, where I think there are 4 or 6 divisions and the best schools all play off. And Fairfield won it 3 years ago now.
2, I think it was.
2. And it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and it was a very big deal coming back in the grand final. It was a great win out at Leichhardt.
So just by way of background, I was, as a deacon, one of the chaplains for Pats Fairfield. And so I got to meet their coach, Frank Pritchard, under the leadership of their great school principal, Mr. Peter Wade. Just really instilled a great culture at Fairfield, a great spiritual culture. There's a real identity, real Patrician Brothers identity at Fairfield. And he just threw all of his support behind Frank and the boys for that final, where he paid for buses. He got the entire college to go to that grand final to play that game. That's awesome. And the winning play was a come from behind, charge down, raced away for the try, and then full time blows. And the stadium went absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Just on that, let's talk about Pats Fairfield for a second. There is a connection.
Yes, my father-in-law went to Pats Fairfield.
Yes.
So there you go. And Peter, I must say, Peter Way has been very kind. I see Peter a fair bit. He's excellent. He's so I've been to Fairfield a few times. He's one of our strongest sporting schools. And what's really impressed me about Fairfield, and Peter came out, we met the leadership team, Catholic Schools Beyond Sport went out there, is, as Peter Wade clearly says, we are not just a sporting school. We're so much more than that. In fact, he gets shirty about saying we're a sporting school. They're good at sport, but they are so much more than that. And you go out to Fairfield, you just see what that school means in the community. And to give a shout out to Pats Blacktown, obviously Patricians do something right.
Yes.
Blacktown on many levels under Frank is very similar. That they're important community schools where they're more than just their sport. And sorry, we'll come back to Fairfield in a second, but just back to the rugby league game with Fairfield. I honestly believe if Pete hadn't have brought out those students, they might not have got home, because it was like the fact those kids were on the drums, banging their drums, yahooing, that brought them home, because it was a very close run thing. And it's just so important to a school, having a strong sports program, arts program, a community, and we'll talk about that later, but the strength of a community in which ways that is formed. Yeah. But for Fairfield, who was such a historically strong rugby league school, I think my father-in-law, Paul Johnston, went there in 1977, and they didn't win the old Amco Cup, but he talks fondly. They got knocked out in the semi-final, but they were happy because it was the TV game.
Yeah.
So they got Leichhardt Oval, TV game, and strong memories. And it's funny how, I think Paul's in his early 60s now, but the way that you remember those moments, him and his, cohort, that they're such important formative moments.
Yeah.
So, but more power to Pete, and especially, I believe, I don't know if it's formally called that, but the work Frank, Polynesian Pathways, the work Frank is doing around the community out there for Polynesians and Islanders is fabulous.
Well, I saw the response firsthand. A lot of these young men, if not for the mentoring and leadership and the direction that Frank provided them, would have been a little confused in their most formative years at high school. And so he really gave them a push and helped them believe in themselves, not only when it came to lacing up the boots and being on the footy field, but also how they conducted themselves as gentlemen at the school. And Peter Wade also, in conjunction with Frank, had a big part to play in all of that. I just want to say, if you want to look at a school that's doing things right by way of, we talk about, the whole person, which we're going to get onto later. Pat's Fairfield are doing a great job at that. I witnessed that firsthand. The solemnity and the reverence around their liturgy, around the way that they honour the diggers on Anzac Day, the way that they honour their mothers and fathers on Mother's Day and Father's Day. It's just a great culture. You've got great people around the place that are really encouraging young men to discover not only their full potential, but how they're going to be developed as men going out into the world post-high school. And if we can get that right in a few of our other schools, that's going to set the tone and the example for the way we move forward for our futures. So Pat's Fairfield, they're doing it right.
And it's constant work. So you go and see Peter. It's not just set and forget, like to spare up my father-in-law. He's got great memories of the school. He pulled out some of his old kit and showed me old photos. But times changed, like the community changed. Who lives in Fairfield now is different from who lived in Fairfield in the 70s. Yet Pat's has been able to adapt with the times, and I'm sure, as Pete would say, that takes a lot of hard work. But that's the key. We have to be constantly evolving and adapting in our schooling system to getting the best out of the community. You just see, to give Frank credit, you just see the mutual respect Frank has with the boys and the boys with Frank. That's a very powerful thing.
Frank, we want to hear your testimony firsthand. Extending an invite to you on the Against the Grain podcast. We'll hopefully see you in a few weeks, mate. I love that you guys are part of all of that, and you're giving these young guys a pathway. Opportunities, which is fantastic. And, a lot of people say, well, when it comes to sport, when it comes to, okay, my son or my daughter clearly has a gift here, potential, a skill set. We just don't have the resources. How are we supported? How do you support these families in getting their children or giving them the best opportunities to be part of something like this?
Well, certainly we try and keep our fees down. And while the school themselves, I know the school looks towards supporting them, we do try and keep our fees down in terms of our sporting events. And in fact, what Sydney Catholic Schools has done is to make things a bit more accessible. Normally, rather than charging for events, they have put a small fee onto each student to allow things to be more spread. And for example, I won't go into too much detail, but a fabulous thing they've done is this all-inclusive abilities where they've gotten these students playing with multi-class kids just in these sporting programs, which is fabulous. But to answer your question, now we do look to work with keeping their fees down. And if there's some opportunity to help, Obviously, it's the primary part of the school in the diocese, but we do look to work with them to try and keep costs down. But there are challenges. Do you go regional? Do you go to city? So regional is lovely, but there are more costs in going out to the regions, but there are strengths and weaknesses with that. Interestingly, what I've heard on the grapevine, that costs have gone up since COVID. I believe buses are now very expensive.
Yes.
I believe buses have doubled since post-COVID. But certainly we have a variety of pupils in our students, and we're very cognizant to try and keep, costs as low as possible. So I guess another thing, we're looking at getting sponsorship. We're potentially getting a grant from the rugby league to help keep costs down. So if we can get grants from association bodies or potential sponsorship, that can go back to keeping costs lower.
Okay.
It's a great thing knowing when they do have that talent that they can be supported, as much as they can financially. I know for a lot of students that their goal is to become an athlete, and so they get their physical. They sort of try and get ready physically for that particular sport, but a lot of the time they can forget about the mental and the emotional side of professional sport once they reach that level. Is there something that you in your role and the team around you, of course, focuses on in getting them prepared or developing them as people to try and, I guess, battle that?
Well, I would say potentially. We're working towards it. Now, I won't go into the theology of the whole person. I'll defer to Father over here. But certainly, I think you are totally correct. We can't just, your body's a temple, but you also must worry about the formation and the soul. So we have teamed up with Dr. Andy Mullins, who is lecturing out at Notre Dame. So basically, he has created a program which we're going to work with him on. So all props to Dr. Mullins. So if I say anything brilliant, he's not mine. But basically, it's going to be called Coaching for Character. And it's about formation. So it turns out we have these cardinal virtues, universal values, resilience, selflessness, basically being just a good person. You can list them effectively than I can. But it turns out these also make you a better sporting person. And we see that in rugby league, I guess the Melbourne Storm model. In rugby union, the Crusaders do it. But that selflessness, that resilience. And interestingly, Andy has done some stuff around neurobiology and neuropathways, where it turns out if you keep doing the same thing, it becomes embedded within you. So it's about creating good habits of these people. So by becoming better people, you also become better sports people. Yeah. So not to get too esoteric, but we're very keen on, as much as we can, trying to develop the whole person, which on some levels hopefully ties in with what our broader school is trying to do, and potentially the parish priest. Yeah,
100%. Couldn't have said it better. It's ultimately the development of young people in a holistic way. So many people put pressure on the development of the athlete. And, you're not a racehorse. It's not just feed them the right thing, make sure they get enough sleep, train hard, and you'll be okay. Because we've seen how detrimental that has been, or that approach has traditionally been to people in their respective sports or even profession, that when times get tough, all of that can go out the window. And so we need to build them up by way of virtue. And that is a continuously good habit. The repetitious nature that you talk about of, okay, and this is what I think our Catholic schools do well in part, is reminding the person that you are a child of God first. Which brings me to a question that I wanted to ask, because we hear in America, we hear about the student athlete in America, where student comes before athlete. And these kids at that very tender age, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, they're still being developed, okay? So it can't always just be about, well, I'm training to be the next Jonathan Thurston, because in sport, as we know, it's a very short lifespan. So we're developing for life in general. And so I suppose in this context, I'd like to talk about the Christian athlete.
Yes.
You know, the Christian athlete, where Christian comes before athlete. You've been gifted with many great gifts. You're probably going to make rep sides. You'll probably crack the NRL or the NRLW. Fantastic. But what do you look like as a person? The way you conduct yourself on the field, off the field, the way you react to something like maybe a career-ending injury. What do you end up doing when you can no longer be at the top of your game? When it comes to retirement, all that type of thing? How are you as a person? So this is a great pathway, this program called Coaching for Character, because it's not just about the type of person you are on the field and off it, but also life after the game, who you are as a person. So when I say Christian athlete, what does this type of Coaching for Character program encompass? Have we gotten to the nuts and bolts of it yet, or is it still being developed?
It is being developed. So what we are looking at is the repetition of motor actions and the repetition of moral choices. So moral choices. So you make good moral choices. So one of, I suppose, the challenges is how best you encapsulate it. And you know, I often say to a lot of these people, we're busy in our lives. The challenges the church are facing. We were laughing before about we don't want to be Ned Flanders. You know, we don't want to be the Ned Flanders of the world, but we want to say, hey, guys and girls, by making these good moral choices, you become a better person and you become a better athlete. And what we're imparting into you is not just for the 80 minutes. This lasts you for the rest of your life. Because I don't want to go into theology because I'll be very outclassed, but life is about challenges and under duress, whether it be sport, and that's why we play sport on some levels, because it provides resilience, because you do things which otherwise the police would be called. Hey, 13 people go tackle each other. If that happened in the park, the police might be called, but for a referee, it's allowed, you know. Some of the games maybe the police should be called, but under duress, when we're after resilience, well, we look to God sometimes. You know, God provides us a lot of this relief, you know, and I was looking at some of your previous interviews, and that comes through the strong faith. And I guess maybe it's funny, what I looked at from watching you guys before was the faith almost gives people a sense of peace. So, well, look, certainly very much. We're still working what the program looks like, but we're looking to instill in young people the ability to make good choices, which are based on the cardinal virtues. So basically improving their formation. And to segue back to Frank Pritchard, you know, not that I know Frank particularly well, I've met him in a group, but I could see from a distance what Frank was doing with that group and how there was that mutual respect. And mate, raps to Frank and raps to Peter Wade for giving Frank the ability to do those things.
I think that's such an important thing. Like, I mean, that was along the lines of a question I wanted to ask as well, which you've answered already. But it's that importance of building. We've spoken about it, building the whole person, but especially, you know, working with Catholic Schools New South Wales. It was, you know, this is all new to me. So
yes.
So one of the questions I did want to ask is the importance that you put on the Christian athlete. Does that just go so far as they're a part of a Catholic school, or is it that we want to catechize them a little bit more in the Catholic faith through these virtues and morals, which you're obviously doing through the Coaching for Character?
Which we plan to.
Yes.
And if I could be very frank, you know, I started this job and we have wonderful talents who go through strong pathways and supported by their school, their Catholic community, their parents, the local sporting clubs, fabulous things. But then I saw these groups of people coming through, and very, very good, strong, lovely, beautiful men and women, young men and women. But I thought, what more could we be doing for them? And this is where this kind of started gathering within me. And turns out one of the people at work knew this, Dr. Andy Mullins, and one thing led to another, because I just wanted, you know, I see there's always resilience training, which is fabulous out there, but I thought we could also have a Catholic lens, and we'll talk about this later, but the fact about community. You know, this binds us because we are a connected Catholic community. So this does bind us. But certainly very much, I thought a young male or female could be between the ages of 5 and 18, go through our systems. What more can we do for them beyond just making a talented sports person? Give them every opportunity to do their best through our school sporting programs. But I just thought if we stopped there, were we missing something? And I'm the first to say I don't have all the answers. I often stumble, but I just saw a gap. Wasn't quite sure how to fill it. And then Dr. Mullins fell into my life. And I said, he started talking to me about these things. And I said, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This opportunity, some would say evangelization, but I would rather say formation at this stage, with potentially there is some evangelization to it, because the values that we are showing are actually good universal values, which happen to be very strong cardinal virtues, Catholic values.
I'm glad you said, you don't have the answer to everything, and none of us do. And I think what that does is it disarms the situation. So what I mean by that is this: when we talk about a holistic upbringing, okay, our young, a young Johnny in year 7 that wants to be the next Jonathan Thurston. Okay, he's thinking about his hero, Jonathan Thurston, and he wants to be the best halfback that ever played the game, and he wants to move in that direction. But he needs to also be developed in life. And I'm glad that there are programs like this, but even these programs won't have all the answers, because the reality is Johnny lives at home. Johnny needs to be loved and supported by his family, and also brought up. We talk about this all the time. The home is where a child receives his first education, his or her first education. So it can't just be left to schools to develop these young people. It's families. It's that whole tribe community mentality that we're talking about, to support the person in their upbringing. And if that isn't at the forefront of everyone's mindset, then it can get dangerous, whereby all the pressure falls on you to have all the answers. And we need you in your pathway system. You have to have everything sorted out for us. And that's just simply not fair. That's not fair. So it is important that we all realize that this is one component in many, many areas of a person's upbringing. And we do our best to bring it together as a community and help them through that development. And we pray that one day Johnny will become the next Jonathan Thurston, but he become a good person in general.
Certainly. and we I think we do have to be cognizant of some of the challenges that we're facing. It's different from 20 years ago. Social media, the iPhone. It has changed the way that we operate and the way we saw it. And I think on some levels, all this anxiety is driven by social media. Statistics seem to show that people are more anxious. I do wonder if it's this social media, and that there are experts far greater than I am, but just from looking at the way social media works is, yes, you might create other communities for your Instagram, but are those communities putting pressure on you, or pressure for unrealistic expectations? So maybe sometimes there are modern pressures put upon our students, whether it be body shaming issues or whatnot. Well, what can we do? How can our community sort of strengthen and provide support, which other things, can be threatening to the students' well-being? Because it's a challenge, and I'm confident that in further other years there'll be more challenges. So we have to constantly evolve and adapt. And I believe from what you just said, that a strong community will act as something that can provide support, because it's a broad extension of really a family.
We've mentioned community a number of times on this episode already. Firstly, how important is community when it comes to the pathways through the Catholic schools, and also, is there something unique about them, or the Catholic schools' sense of community, or does it stand out in a certain way?
And look, I'm biased. My daughter just started at kindergarten at Old Randwick, so I'm biased. It's a lovely school, so I'm biased about it. But I just feel that Catholic schools have this warmth and community, and I do admit I'm not coming in impartially, but I just think the link with the local church, is it the parent liaison officer, just the warmth of the community, I think do set us apart, because even if you want to be strategic about things, I used to be a lawyer, from a corporate sense, you've got basically 60% are the public schools, 20% the private schools, 20% us. Well, what do we do better? I would honestly, hand on the heart, say we do community better. But we could do it a lot better. We do it well, we do it better, but we could do it so much better. So how do we better connect? And I look for answers all the time. I found some, lost some, but I look for things like this. This is a community. The people you speak to, this is all part of a community. I was giving a PowerPoint, it came to me, we're just better together. We are better together. And how do we create enablers to make this community? On some levels, what I found with sport is that sport itself became a connector for people who wanted to connect. Yes, they're very talented people and they all come together, but on some levels, I do think people want to connect in this Catholic community. We just have to find the opportunity to provide them to connect, because they do want to. They're just looking for the opportunity. In the same way the schools are working so well with the parishes. I believe Sydney Catholic Schools the Archdiocese has had a real push with that, and it's been very successful.
So just for a clarification, you're not Sydney Catholic Schools, you're Catholic Schools New South Wales. Yes. So is that another branch? Is that a government branch? How does that fall? Okay. Talk to us about that structure.
Very confusing. So literally the amount of people who set up, so basically I'd say 1 and 2 phone calls come to us because they think we're Sydney Catholic Schools or Parramatta or Broken Bay. So it is a little confusing that there's a hierarchy. So the day-to-day operation of the schools runs through your diocese. So I guess, and it was formerly Tony Farley at Sydney Catholic Schools, is I correctly or not, but the way I use it in common language is Tony was almost principal of the principals. Yep. Well, each school has its own autonomy to some levels. There was a head office which did some form of decision making. So basically all the principals, such as Peter, reported into Tony at some level. Yep. Whereas your private schools are run independently. So we do a few of those. Where we sit is we were formerly known as the Catholic Education Commission, and we were brought in, I think, started in 1969 as a funding body, and the government gave us money, which then got distributed to the various dioceses. And I do think we're sitting at currently 3.8 billion, give or take, which is a lot of zeros. I don't know how your maths is, but and that's split up between the various dioceses, done on the census and things such as that. So obviously, we're mostly lower end fee paying schools. Most of our schools probably don't go over $6,000, but in the systemic system, but certainly, a very important part of the Australian sector. Just to make things even more confusing, other states aren't built the same way that we are. And I was looking on Google, so you can't always trust Google, but I do believe we're potentially the largest Catholic sporting pathway in the world. And Sydney Catholic Schools, so that they run schools basically from Cronulla to Fairfield to Holy Cross to Eastwood to Clifton Gardens, they're potentially the largest weekly Catholic sporting comp in the world. So they run their sports on a Thursday. So to give Parramatta a shout out, they also run Thursday sport. For some of the other dioceses, it can get a bit more difficult because when your schools are further apart, it can be harder to run Thursday sport. But I do believe, speaking to the CEO of Newcastle, they're potentially looking at, they've got a small program at the moment, but looking to expand that. Okay. So sport is having a recent refocus. They're and to give Sean Scanlon, who's CEO of Newcastle, a shout out. He's doing great things up there. He's got big plans and he's very keen to get Newcastle, which is a great sporting town. He's really looking to really energise it.
So in summary, government funding goes to you guys.
Yes.
And you spread that out through multi-dioceses.
Yes, via the census.
Okay, very good. Gotcha.
Can I ask, what's the connection then National Catholic Education Commission?
Okay, that's just into Collins, the former senator. Yep. So they're more they don't actually touch the money. Well, firstly, they're national, we're state.
Yeah.
Number two, they're really, not lobbying, I shouldn't say that. They're more an organisational arm which talks to politicians and drives a lot of policy at a national level. So we are one of the state-based organisations. While we have a policy legal governance framework, we also do deal with the money, whereas the ACEC is at that higher, almost multi-state level, whereas when they go, so obviously Jacinta's got a background in politics, so she's obviously often in Canberra doing good work for us, because on some levels the war isn't over. We're not to discuss here, but there are ongoing challenges that we face with funding, and not to be critical of certain newspapers, but you just look at certain papers and there's potentially an agenda driving certain papers.
Yeah, and we've been vocal on that from day one here at the podcast. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you a fun question, okay? You're given a blank check. If you were given complete reign over how to run what you're running and put particular things in place, what would you do? Have you thought about that before?
Yes. I would, to be honest, increase the funding for sport at a school level. You know, because often I think a lot of sports masters have 0.2, which is like basically a period. So they don't have, whereas we skipped over me, but I went to a independent school called Waverley College in Waverley by Junction in Sydney's East, and we're sports masters pretty much full time. Whereas some of the Catholic schools, majority of them, have a sports master who's on 0.2, and that's so hard to organise everything while only on a 0.2 load. So firstly, I would increase the funding for sport at school level, and then that would flow up, and I'd look to try and give fee relief to people in need as well, to help those in need.
So for the layman here, 0.2 is
basically a class.
Okay, so they're not full-time or...
One class off.
One class off, okay.
So basically, they get one class off, whereas in the independent system, you might have one or even more full-time sport masters.
Gotcha, okay.
So it's very hard. So basically, they basically get a class. If you're sports master of the school, you get a class off. Okay. And that's a lot to organise.
Okay. And so in putting funding into the schools directly, where they would be more full-time,
yes,
that would then give greater opportunities for sport to flourish a little more?
Yes.
Okay.
And to comment, I won't say one of the dioceses, but it was raised to me, one of the senior people in the diocese said, well, the arts are very, very important. You know, with strong arts programs, crucial for schools. I believe they had 9 people in their diocese arts program. They had 1.5 people in their sports program.
Okay.
So that's, you know, in a sense, the way I describe it is it's almost a bit like the cartoon from the 90s, The Land That Time Forgot. They have almost left sport behind because sport has been built upon people at a school level working so hard, doing so much. The system probably didn't reward that. They just whereas as more and more things grew, people's times got more scarce. I do think there needs to be a reprioritisation on sport because it is such, not the most important thing, of course, but it is part of the school's fabric, having a strong, sporting program.
Yeah, well, look, that makes sense. I mean, we talk all the time about how much of a mad sports nation we are. How is that translating into the support that, the schools are getting, specifically our Catholic schools? I'm a Catholic priest, but I know that there needs to be young, active people running around on fields on weekends and throughout the school during the week. And we need to actually have proper pathways. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind.
There's precedent for it as well, because Sydney Catholic schools have put so much money and infrastructure into the Amadeus program for music. And if you think about pathways for music aren't the same as they would be for sport, and all the things that come around the community of sport and being active. Imagine having an equivalent thing where you had trained teachers out at every school from year 3 through to year 12, like they do with the Amadeus program, for sport, for health, for those sort of things, yeah.
And Sydney, to their credit, did reprioritise sport. So sport's got a massive push in Sydney Catholic schools. They have conference coordinators to help the teachers, because if we remember the old MCC days, which was the association, there was one person trying to run it. It was too hard, whereas now they have conference coordinators, they drive it. And the reality was certain schools, Marsland, Holy Cross, Ryde, Fairfield, they had good sports. One of my colleagues at work, Dave Walker, give Dave a shout out, he went to De La Salle Caringbah, right? De La Caringbah. And literally one time a year, he'd put on a singlet to play. He's a basketball nut. He would put on the singlet once a year because they'd play in some local comp. They didn't have weekly sport. This is 1995 I'm talking about. Old, but not that old. So literally some schools didn't have weekly sport like De La Caringbah. And I do think for people who are interested, I do think weekly sport does bring something to the school.
Definitely.
It helps bring the school together.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree.
You speak so passionately about about this, which is awesome to see, and it's obviously been such a successful, like the pathways have obviously been very successful for many athletes. Can you think of any, just off the top of your head, any athletes that, any well-known athletes, maybe particularly rugby league players, former or current, that went through Catholic schools pathways?
Well, before you go in rugby league, because it's only the subject of this podcast,
Yeah.
so we're going to finish there,
That's
of
all
course.
right.
I do believe we had approximately from the Tokyo Olympics, which were in 2021, the 2020 Olympics in 21, we had about 40 go through.
Wow.
Including one row of Italy. So we're hoping for about the same number. So we're counting primary and secondary. So we had 40 Olympians, including the Paralympians as well. So we are strong in other sports. But rugby league is certainly our heartland. I think last statistic we had 5 or 6 in the Blues. I think we got half the Panthers because the Panthers have Doms. Doms Kingswood is a very strong school. So just off the top of my head, who would be there at Doms? You'd have Cleary, Luai, be what the Dubbo did in the Isaiah Yao. So yeah, I think basically half of the Panthers are at the Catholic school. So lots and also lots of IP around coaches. For example, I think in the Blues team where they were half New South Wales Catholic kids, I think they'd also included Fittler went to a Catholic school. Badiris went to a Catholic school. We've also got good coaching IP as well. So certainly I think on average we get about a third of the New South Wales Blues team in.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So talk to us about how some of these players, retired players, coaches, do they give back? Do they participate in some of the things you got going on? Do you call them back? Can you come speak to the guys before they run out onto the field, particular competitions, whatever it might be? Do you get some of the old boys coming back? And, before we were shooting, you were talking about guys that have come back and helped out with training sessions, things like that.
Yes, certainly. So referring to that, Mick Ennis had his lad come through our junior pathway program. So he very kindly came down, ran some trainings, and was a lovely bloke, very respectful and obviously a great footballer, So we do look to call on that where we can. I mean, historically, probably, not to typecast rugby league players, historically, a lot of them probably became teachers and came back and helped. So some of the rugby league, there's a guy called Brian Batiste who was a player, I think played for Canterbury, Brian Batiste, in the maybe late 80s, early 90s. He's teaching up north, so he's been very still influential in rugby league. But we certainly, a lot of times they're employed in schools, but now we are looking where possible, to call back. And to be honest, rugby league is potentially, if not one of our strongest sport. And if anything, we've got a very powerful infrastructure, lots of IP. But in other sports, we're really looking to call on people to come back to boost, just our coaching. Whereas rugby league, we are strong, but we're always looking to work with old boys coming through and often they come back and have a look. And I don't know half these people, to be honest, but I did spy Jack Cogger, popped his head in, who came through. I don't know what he was doing there at the rugby league trials, but Cogger was talking to all the teachers, and it's nice. I know that, not that I've met Ivan Cleary, but Ivan Cleary came back. His lad Jet Cleary was in the team. So there was a whole little Cleary clan sitting there watching the trials. So that's what we're after. So yeah, certainly we look for opportunities going back to this idea around Catholic community.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
So where we can, yes.
Well, on that quickly, about speaking about past players and things, and obviously life after football, we've spoken on the show a little bit. Life after football can be a bit tough for some players. They're not really sure where to go because they focus so much time on their career. Is there anything building the person, I guess, is one of the things that will help with life after football. But is there anything that you or that the program that you run might do to help players sort of decipher what they can or can't do?
At this stage, we've sort of left it more to the schools. And if I could call out, for example, Pat's Blacktown under Frank Schmidt. Frank is very clear. This is not American Sporting High School. If you don't make your grades, if you don't turn up to school, he has said you're not playing. I don't care if you're the best player in the team, you are not playing. So he's really, and that partially answers your question. Awesome. He's driven that there is a broader, because very similar to Peter Wade, he's very big on we are a holistic school. Yes, we're strong at sport, but it doesn't just define us. We are more than that. So he's been very clear that I don't want these kids coming through getting a free ride because they're good at sport, because ultimately it's a false comfort potentially, because mate, you're only one knee away from ending your career. Yeah. So no, we haven't done that. But as I said, we're open to ideas. That's certainly something that we could look towards, and making sure that kids keep their options open.
The game in general, I think, has gotten a lot better probably this last decade when it comes to assisting athletes in pathways after it's all said and done. Whereas we hear some real horror stories going back 20, 30 years about guys that their purpose was football. Mm-hmm. They were defined by their respective sport. And once they finished that sport, they had no idea what to do with themselves afterwards. So I suppose you're more on the developmental level with the school, with our young people. You're giving them the building blocks to discern.
I'd be hopeful that things that we could provide to them would put them in good stead for later life.
Yep. Cool.
Wonderful.
And then it falls on the club and the league and things like that to really help them after.
So and hopefully the learnings we're provided with them is that resilience, that broader perspective, because to be honest, it's a false comfort. You're good at sport. That's all you wanted to do. Like I was laughing this morning listening to Adam Douay. I was trying to say Douali, but it's Douay. He's
confirmed it's Dewey. Although jury's still out. Some people think it should be the way it's supposed to be said, but out of respect for him and his father, it's Dewey.
So he put. I did see he was putting his eggs in the footy basket. So so it does, and rightly so. Yeah. But it does happen. It was. You can say that it's funny how these passions run deep. One of my colleagues went to Christian Brothers Lewisham, actually played, I think, Jersey Flegg for the Doggies. He was a bit annoyed because I think Adam's dad went to Lewisham, so he was always a little bit sore that he didn't roll his. There's a great Lewisham St Pat's rivalry. So my colleague Ben, I'll forward this to Ben, was saying that Adam was wasted not going to Lewisham. So.
Well, Adam will be a great return success story if he comes back. This was his third knee, Rico. Was it?
I think so.
They're tough to come back from. He's done it twice.
He's back at training.
He's back at training, so we wish Adam all the best and been praying for his recovery. But
come back to South.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Tigers, I think they surprised us with a couple of shock wins, and since then, not much. They haven't got the cookies yet, but they might be awaiting Adam's return. We'll see. Anthony, you got anything else?
Well, not particularly on this. I think it's...
Well, Rob, anything else on what you're doing at the moment?
Well, firstly, thanks for the opportunity. But what I'd like to say is back to our Catholic communities. Firstly, Rob does not have all the answers, far from them. But I'm just really big on this Catholic community because we're better together. And what I've found in this role is you shake the tree, the birds fly. Like you just find so much comes out when you meet people. You're open to ideas, and by working together, you put positive, enthused people together. It's amazing what happens.
Awesome.
Amen.
And we want to encourage that community. We want parents to know that they are supported in our schooling systems. We want them to know also that life is bigger than the game, and you've beautifully articulated that today. And that's what we talk about. We're so blessed each week. We get to sit down in the comfort of our homes or go to a game and watch these world-class athletes put on a show for us. And we're so grateful for that, the way that brings people together. But we also have been reminding people on this show time and time again that life is more about just the game. And that's where I think the faith and footy component have connected beautifully. And so we've been very blessed to have you on the show. But we're not going to let you go away just now, because we're going to transition. We're going to change gears a little bit. And we want to hear what you have to say about the round just passed, and Anthony will lead us through that.
Well, let's get on to our round 10 we've just had. And did you catch many of the games?
I did.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. This is great. Well, we're going to have some great conversation. I have my own opinions on games and teams and things like that. Please feel free to disagree with me on any of them. But So we'll start off with our first game, which was the Dolphins versus the Sea Eagles. And the Dolphins won that game 30 points to 24. And so what we have is our own tipping comp. And so we put up on our Instagram stories for our followers and things to put their tips in. And what we call them...
The Bips.
The Bips.
The Bips tips.
So the Bips are our BIPs, beautiful internet people.
They're all of our followers.
Yes, yeah, that's
our
right.
loyal followers.
Exactly. And our Bips unfortunately tipped Manly for this round. So they got 0 from 1 so far. So important to note, firstly, round 10 in general was injury plagued. There were so many. For Manly, they lost Tom Trebojevic, that is. And Jason Saab.
Wasn't due to that high tackle, was it?
No.
God. You tackled the cameraman.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it not tackling the cameraman? I know he did in the tackle. It's probably tackling the camera person.
But did you see that penalty they called when he got hit in the face? It was just a little
love tap on the face. Oh gosh, and he got penalised for it. There were some shocking decisions this round. But anyway, but yeah, it was that tackling the cameraman where he's done his hamstring, and Jason Saab as well copped another injury, unfortunately. So we pray for their recovery. But the Dolphins are just they're looking more convincing every week. So it took me a while for them to really convince me. And last week I really noticed how good the halves were, and they were again. Sorry,
Cody.
Yeah, Nikorima.
Oh,
he's a star. He's killing it.
In
Cody
good form.
Nikorima. Isaiah
Good
Katoa is the biggest surprise for me. I didn't know he was as good as what I'm seeing from him. But Trey Fuller as well, the fullback, like coming in for the hammer. It's only his 5th NRL game, and he's just playing with so much confidence. That try he scored, the chip over the top, that's confidence at its peak. And to do that in only your 5th game of NRL is insane.
yeah.
And Marshall King is, again, the
glue.
Yeah, he's the glue.
He's keeping them together.
Yeah, he's really laying that foundation for him.
Every time an ex-Bulldog player has success, we're just like, oh, what a let go.
Yeah. Yeah, he was solid.
Well, unfortunately for me, my missus and her father, massive Manly supporters. So I had a bad week. I had a bad weekend after that. Like, nothing could go right. Even Mother's Day didn't make up for it. She was, she wasn't very happy. But I must say, whether it be the Wayne Bennett magic dust or whatever he does, his teams do grind it out, and they just get better and better.
Yeah.
Like the Dolphins have very much surprised me.
Yeah.
I didn't think they had much chop this year, and look where they are.
Yeah,
they're amazing. He gets the best out of his players.
He does, doesn't he?
He knows how to. And Manly, a little bit disappointing, but I'm sure they'll come back from it. I like
Josh on report again. Josh Holloway, big shout out, mate.
No surprise there. He's poor guy. He's going on report for all soft things.
He was 12 centimeters off the ground. And, he made contact with the head because the guy was falling over. Like, that's not in his character to go out to hurt people. We all know that.
Yeah.
We've spoken to the guy. He plays hard. And he just, wrong place, wrong time.
But this is the thing, like, we've spoken about it before. I won't go on for too long, but the NRL's trying to stop accidents from happening. And it's just, that's impossible. You can't stop accidents. Like, if you're going to penalize, right? But then to suspend a player for someone falling into your hand at the speed that everything's happening at, like to expect them to move away or something, that like to
It's
suspend them
because
is
rugby league at its heart is a contact game.
Yeah.
That's the strength. It's a contact
right.
game. So how do you manage that conflict to do it in a safe way?
Yeah.
Because potentially contact with the head is a penalty. Yes. But if someone is falling, you're close to the ground, are they not mitigating circumstances?
Correct.
We might have to give a penalty, but then you don't have to potentially suspend them when the person fell into it. And for me, I don't make the rules obviously, but it's about intent. I guess intent's hard to prove, but if you don't have intent for that tackle because the guy fell over and you tackled them, then you shouldn't get suspended. But it's hard, but then it also takes the contact out of the game, and it's a game built,
That's
You're right.
That's
you know what, Rob, we want to keep you
said.
in the Catholic system in New South Wales, But if the NRL ever calling for a common sense approach to the rules of the game, we've got a candidate right
got
here.
our tick of approval, yeah.
It's one thing I've learned with sport administration, much easier said than done.
Yeah.
So it's always
fair.
It's always
Fair.
challenges.
It's just interesting because they say they give refs discretion. You know, all these decisions are at the ref's discretion. But for things like that seem so silly, like what we're speaking about, you know, falling into a tackle or we'll get to the Melbourne Storm Harry Grant sin bin. They've made those decisions just black and white. The ref has no discretion there. It's just black and white, penalty, sin bin, whatever. So it's...
Well, my big bugbear is knock-ons.
interesting.
I don't know how you can say some of those knock-ons are not knock-ons. So why it's not touch footy. You don't drop the ball backwards and get called up for it. Drop the ball
that's
backwards
right.
and drop ball. Anyway,
Yeah. So many.
So many.
But that's the Dolphins taking that game out on the Thursday night, which was really impressive. Now we come to a team that we are 3 out of 4 of us here are passionate about, and that's the Panthers versus Bulldogs game. The Bips rightfully tipped the Panthers, who took the game out 16-10. So respectable scoreline for the Bulldogs, though they scored in the last second. So they were never really.
And the points from Penrith came on the back of Bulldogs' errors.
That's right.
And Penrith are just too good a team. They mount so much pressure.
Yeah.
If the other team are just making mistakes, you're always going to lose against Penrith.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? Like those 2 tries were a bit soft defensively from the Bulldogs, who had an incredible defensive game other than those 2 soft efforts. Panthers are always good defensively. But the Bulldogs actually came out and they dominated the Panthers at the start of the game. And it would have kept going, in my opinion, would have kept going throughout the rest of the game, or at the very least the rest of the half, had Nathan Cleary not been on the field. We always speak about how good Nathan Cleary is, but all it took was one clever kick. He understood the conditions that he was playing in, how fast he had to, or how much power he had to put on the ball for it to have stopped in the in-goal and things in the wet weather. And like that sort of stuff is ridiculous. To have known that and to have just put that one kick in to the in-goal, it looks like it's going to go out. It's bound to go out. And then because of the wet weather, it holds up in-goal. And then they tackle, I think it was Connor Tracy, I assume, because he was a fullback, in-goal. And that one play turn the
Changes
whole
the
half
game.
around and eventually ultimately the
And
game.
you could tell that they were up for it too, because Carraz always plays with passion, but he was filthy when they weren't executing what they should have executed.
Yeah.
Like he was in for the game, and I think that was reflective of the Bulldogs' attitude that they wanted to win that game.
Yeah.
Like that was probably something that they had approached the week with, going, we can win this and we will win it. But then, as we've discussed in previous weeks, the more polished teams always just come away with the victory.
But I do think under Seraldo, you've certainly got a glue you didn't have before.
Yes, definitely.
Starch.
100%. And then you look at all the common criticisms of the Bulldogs and all the fans, that are saying the number one every week is Drew Hutchison. And I've spent weeks defending him, so I won't keep going. I'll still defend him in the same ways I have been. But Serrato's really, like, Father, you were talking about them coming into that game thinking they'll win it. We've said it before. That has been missing for years. And Serrato's come in and brought this winning attitude where it's not, we're still a building team, like we're still growing and whatever. It's no, we are building still, but we're going to win now. And they have that attitude coming in. So he's been awesome. But unfortunately, Panthers still came away with the 2 points. Still hopeful though for the Bulldogs. Very impressive. All right, now this was an interesting game. The Eels versus Broncos. So Broncos won that game 30-14, and the Bips again tipped the Broncos. So 2 from 3, well done. This was very similar to the Bulldogs-Panthers game in that the Eels dominated majority of the game, but Broncos were just more clinical. So you can dominate possession and all those things, and they came out to win as well.
Because it was very close at halftime, wasn't it? And the last 20, the Broncos just their class just blew out.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, at halftime, I thought they were out. I think there were 2 converted tries behind, and I thought, well, Eels aren't going to come back against the Broncos. And at the start of the second half, Dylan Brown, who, my goodness, I can't rate highly enough. Dylan Brown, off the back of a kick, pulls off a 1-on-1 strip and scores, and brings them back within a try. And then I thought, oh my goodness, Eels might win. But they conceded 3 tries directly from an error. They made an error, failed to clean it up, and the Broncos picked it up and just ran. So that's concerning. That's 3 tries that would have won them the game. Mm-hmm. So, that's concerning. Ezra Mam is just a clever player, far out. He killed it.
They did well.
Yeah. So Broncos just too good. Broncos are Broncos. We expect them to do well.
I think it's hard. Without Mitchell Moses, it's they're doing well. Like that, I'm sure I've got his name, but the young half came through, surprised me. He did well.
Yeah, Ethan Sanders.
Yeah, he went all right. He went all right. It's hard about Moses.
And no Gutho as well.
No Gutho, yeah.
Yeah, so
Blaze Talangi had a great game actually.
Yeah,
we've spoken about him before, but he showed his potential in fullback. That was great. Yeah. And his attitude was great because he had a mixed game. He had some errors. He got smashed a lot of times, but he just kept coming. Confidence. So that was awesome. Mitch Moses, I think, is back this week from what I've heard. So, yeah.
We'll
interesting.
see.
Interesting.
So a good Holy Cross boy.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. All right. Maybe the more players we mention, we'll get their background. Well, there we go. We're coming up to a player I wanted to mention. Who came through Catholic schools. So we got to the Tigers versus Knights. I believe that was the first Saturday game. Knights won that game 2014. Bips tipped the Knights again, so 3 from 4. Tigers did a lot better than I expected without, and here's the player Aiden Caesar, who was a Larsell Bankstown boy. So shout out. Larsell Bankstown, yeah. We're both, ex-Larsell boys. They actually did really well. And I've been critical of Jaden Sullivan. I still don't think he's a great halfback, but he showed his potential as a player in general in that game. So that was cool to see. And the Knights just got to, we always say, better teams get the scrappy wins. They were the better team that day. Knights are 3 from 3 without Ponga, which is very interesting. So they're looking good. It'll
be interesting to keep an eye on because when Ponga went down in that Bulldogs game and we knew that this is probably going to be an injury he's going to be out for a while from, I think it was you, the Catholic wizard, that said the whole salary cap is in his contract ultimately.
Yeah.
So how are they going to do? They've responded.
Yeah. They've done really well. Armstrong was really good though. I think he got injured, if I'm not mistaken, or went off for a HIA. So we'll see how that goes. And then Bradman Best deserves a shout out because he schooled. Oh yeah, again.
Bradman Best. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Bradman Best. Yeah. All right. He schooled Brent Naden. Poor Brent Naden. He's a good player. I'm not an advocate for dropping players after one bad game or anything, but I am very much, as everyone who's watched this show faithfully knows, I'm a very big advocate of Declan Casey. And I've just recently learned that he's a train and trial player. So he hasn't been eligible to play first grade until this coming round 11. So hopefully he gets a crack. He played 5/8, which is really random for the Magpies this week, and they won. So interesting. But I think to throw him in centre would be good for the Tigers. But yeah, Knights got a good win there. All right, Rob, here we go.
South.
Yep, we have.
How'd you know?
It's the gift that keeps giving.
It might have been the sympathetic look or something. I'm sorry. The Dragons versus the Rabbitohs. So, firstly, our Bips tipped the Dragons, and they got that right, 28-14. The Dragons won. I thought the Rabbitohs looked a little bit better.
Oh. Well, they weren't going to look worse. So they had more stars. But look, they had a bit more stars to them. Like obviously, I think Latrell helped coming back, and Cody, they really gave it a go, but the Dragons were just too good around the park and pulled away a bit. But obviously South still some challenges. I do think that first half everyone did really put in, but ultimately, I think we're probably just lacking. Just overall, the Dragons were just too good, unfortunately. No, I didn't think the Dragons would do that well this year, but they came good.
It's funny when a club comes into a little bit of turmoil, whether it be the changing of a coach or the injury of a player or there's some kind of scandal, whatever it might be, it just shows you how it affects the club on the field. Because you think, okay, all these guys have been training, though they've been training all season, you just start to see the cracks that start to show on the field, which also proves to us time and time again, it's a mental, emotional, psychological game. It's, if things aren't going well in the locker room, no matter how hard you've trained all week, it's still not going to translate onto the field. So we bring it back again to that holistic approach to the game that we have to have. They'll eventually come good, South, surely, but it's just, it's not been good.
No, I want us to be hated again. At the moment, the worst thing is people feel sorry for South. That's not, it came from 3 Bulldogs. That's not what you want. Oh, South, feel sorry for you. We'll go back to, it was 2014. That was a better time. There was no sorry there.
Yeah, true.
Yes, South being pitied is a very sad day.
Look, I'll be honest. I feel sorry for you as a supporter. I don't feel sorry for South. No, I'm kidding. Look, I don't mean to put Anth on the spot, but
yes,
Rob mentioned Latrell, and you've been critical of Latrell. I was a little bit critical of him in this game as well. Another
Catholic school boy.
Is it? Oh gosh, now I feel bad.
Well, I don't think I was really critical of Latrell. I just said it seems like, I'm just talking based on history, that he does better when he's not the number one in a team. Not as in number one as in fullback, but as in the number one go-to guy. Like in the Roosters, he had other players around him that he didn't have to carry the burden all on his own. How many times have we heard in commentary where they say where they need a big thing from Latrell here, they need a big play, and it never really fully comes off. And so what I was saying the other week was that he seems to do better in a system where he's not the go-to guy, where he can just do his thing. That's what I said.
I think that game showed that because there were a couple of beautiful, very swift in backline movements in the tries that South scored. Latrell was involved in those plays, and sometimes it was the final pass before the try. It's like he does those things with such class, and he's just reliable when it comes to that. That if he had the pieces around him that took that pressure off him being the main attraction or the guy that has to get the result, they'd probably be in a better position.
So I do think Latrell is better off when he can pick his moments, right?
Yep.
So right now in South Sydney, every moment's his moment. So the people know ball's going Latrell at the back. It's better when he can pick his moment. I think example was it when the Roosters beat Canberra and he flicked that ball to Tedesco right in the grand final. Like when he picks his moments, 1-on-1 in the right time, he's unstoppable.
Special.
But when the ball's coming back to him the whole time, he just gets tired just from doing so much. And obviously him and Cody Walker, like when they're on, they're on. But I guess the downside of players who can just be so on is you're not Cooper Cronk. You're not, I won't say monotonous, but you're just like some players are so steady, whereas Walker and Latrell are great together when they're on. But you only need a couple little things to go wrong, and it's hard.
Well, he had about, he'd average about 8 to 10 touches a game when he played for the Roosters. And then that also he needs to get his hands on the ball more. But I think it's shown that it doesn't really work, that it's just having that, being a string in the bow, not the bow itself, it might be better for him.
Yeah, certainly. I think when he can choose his moments to join in, because he's got great hands, great size, but just pick his moments. Like, he before AJ got hurt, South's had some injuries, but, certainly the way he can throw those passes, he's a great threat because he'll run it, he'll chip, he'll throw great. His hands are beautiful. For a big man, he's deceptive. Yeah. But, we know every play's going to him at the back. I guess that takes away some of the threat.
We'll see if he gets picked for New South Wales. We'll see, because he won't be the main guy. He'll be a centre.
Yeah. Well, he took himself out, didn't he? Or was that
the NRL said you can't do that. So,
well, he probably won't get selected. But
But if he was selected, you probably see the old Latrell back, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, part of that also is a fullback is so important, right? So if he's going to play fullback, then he's going to be a key player. And I was pretty critical. Like, he got a couple of tries against Dragons, but he didn't do much other than score those tries. And my personal solution to this problem is, and this is a spectator not understanding all the problems behind the scenes and things, just looking at the game, the way it's played on the field, on TV, whatever, is Latrell can be a massive threat in centre, and Jack Wyden is being wasted in that position because it's almost like the Addo Carr situation at the Bulldogs previously, is that he can be a great winger in his own right, but when you're playing in a team that's not getting you the ball, you can't really do much. And Jack Wyden's in that position now where he's just being wasted in centre. So I would switch Jack Wyden and Latrell. I'd put Latrell in centre, Wyden in fullback. Wyden has everything that a fullback needs. He started off in fullback, but moving to 5'8" helped him develop in the skills he needs to be a great fullback. He's got the kicking game, the passing game, the running game. He's strong defensively. He's on point. So if he moves to fullback, gets his hands on the ball more, also not as injury prone as Latrell. And then the other thing is the Rabbitohs need a proper halfback.
Yes.
Cody Walker is a quality 5'8", but he's not a halfback. He's not the main playmaker. We always speak about it. Every team needs a
Organiser and a runner.
structured, organised halfback. Walker needs that so that he can just play freely. The way Burden is with Hutcho, the way Luai does it best with Cleary, whatever. Walker needs that at the Rabbitohs. And now they're short on halfbacks. I don't know where
Lachlan
Hawkins is. Dean Hawkins, I think, got injured. I think that's why he didn't play.
Yeah, but I think he got hurt. They both got hurt. The two young ones got hurt.
And then
Ilias
Lachlan Ilias
he's
out.
Ilias got hurt. Hawkins got hurt.
Yeah. So even if they, like, loans have been a thing recently in our NRL, if they look to loan a halfback or bring someone up, you don't want to bring them up too early though, and things like that. But they need a proper halfback. But they're
Look, I do agree, but Latrell, look, Latrell's good because people talk. So he gets people talk. You have an opinion about Latrell, so very good. I think one of the challenges is supremely talented, but he's not your Dylan Edwards. They're kind of opposites. Latrell brings a skill set which is different than Dylan Edwards. But people see the run meters, so very different players.
Yeah.
But for both of them to thrive, they need to be in the correct ecosystem. The bottom line is right now at South, that's not the correct ecosystem because nothing's really going right for South Sydney. That's pretty obvious. The ecosystem's not working at all at the moment. No doubt Latrell's big play style can work, but you just need the ecosystem around him. Right now, that's not
fair.
there. And maybe there's some tweaks they need to, when things are going wrong for you. Actually, I hadn't thought of Whiten playing fullback. I'd forgotten he'd been a fullback when he was younger. At the Raiders or something.
Yeah, at the Raiders, Started off as a fullback before moving to 5'8".
Yeah, when certainly things aren't going right for you, it might be time to try a few things.
Yeah, I think it's just worth, like, while they're in the situation they're in, just to, instead of damaging your players more, like Latrell's in a position where he mentally, firstly, but just in every aspect, he's at risk of being completely damaged from what's happening at the club. Just move him out of the spotlight, get him in centre, and get someone who's, like, no offense to Latrell, but Wyden's clearly more mentally resilient and strong. Maybe because he hasn't faced as much adversity. He's not in the spotlight as much as Latrell. It could be that. But moving him to fullback won't put him in the spotlight any more than he's already been anyway. So I think it's just best, at least short term, to just do that. They're not going to win the premiership that way, I don't think. But it's just a short term solution, I guess, for this year.
Otherwise, Wayne will sort it out.
Otherwise,
Wayne will sort it out.
Yeah. When he inevitably returns to Souths.
Well, as we said before, the Dolphins. there's something about Wayne Bennett that gets the best out of his players. And watch Wayne now, mid-70s. How does this gentleman who's in his mid-70s just have this connectivity? Like he builds a community, which is part of connectivity. So somehow he just connects with these younger people. You know, it's a wonderful skill set.
They talk about a person having a particular magnetism or an aura about them, where they just go into a place and eyes are on them and they're inspiring to listen to. Or when that person's in the room, you just want to go up to them, pick their brain about what they know about the game or their expertise, whatever it might be. Wayne Bennett seems to be that type of character, where people just buy into everything that he does, which is why he's been so successful.
My mates call it the Wayne Bennett magic dust. There's something he just sprinkles, and people just buy in.
Yeah,
people just buy in.
That's right.
It's great connectivity.
Yeah, that's why he's a top tier coach. Well, that's a good chat on the Rabbitohs. Usually we have that sort of detailed chat on the Bulldogs, so it's nice to have it on another team. And then the Dragons, obviously, they struggled a bit, but they got the win at the end. So well done to the Dragons.
He just totally brushed that game.
You know, they did all right. They just
move on.
Well, a little thing on the Dragons then, if you'd like, is Tom Eisenhuth has to get out of the back row, and RFM needs to start there. Eisenhuth is a middle of the field player, lock or prop. Anyway, that's my little thing on the Dragons. But they played well. You know, they got the win. Well done. All right. Now, here's an interesting one. Storm versus the Sharks. And the Sharks won that one 25-18.
What a game.
Yeah. Bibs tipped the Storm, by the way. Yes. So, yeah. This was a challenge because a lot of the criticism has been, and it came from me as well, is that Sharks haven't had the hardest schedule so far. They haven't come up against the top teams yet. This was one of the top teams without Nico Hines, but Storm didn't have Jerome Hughes as well, or Xavier Coates. But still, to come away with a win against Storm in the fashion they did, in a close game to beat Storm at Amy Park.
Yep.
That's their first loss since the beginning of last year, I believe, at Amy Park, Storm. So, interesting game.
Were you going to pick Cronulla? Were you the one that said that Cronulla seemed to be one of Melbourne's bogey teams?
Yeah.
Who'd you end up picking?
I think I tipped Storm still.
You caved into peer pressure on the set, I think.
Maybe. But I didn't.
We
wasn't
were testing
aware.
you.
Yeah,
we were testing your resilience.
Yeah. I failed completely. Yeah. No, it's because the team lists aren't out yet. And Storm without Jerome Hughes they're still very good. Like Storm is Storm. But Jerome Hughes has proven this year more than any other that he needs to be in that side for them to be top tier.
Even without that Harry Grant stuff, though, you know, that was unfortunate. Seeing I tipped the Storm, but it's still a great win, you know. And what must do for their confidence to say we can go down to one of the hardest places to win and do it.
Yeah,
and without our halfback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and without their halfback, like last minute almost, like you know, so they didn't have all week to prepare without him or whatever. It was so impressive from the Sharks. That Harry Grant decision, I don't think it decided the game, but it is such a silly decision. That frustrated me so much. Did you see it? I don't know did everyone see it?
Talk our people at home, our bips, talk to them. What happened?
So I don't know if anyone remembers Josh Alloye being suspended for a game previously. We spoke about it for a failed charge down. And
he connected with the big toe.
Yes, with the big toe, right? And got suspended for it. This was even less than that.
It was a toenail.
Small toe.
It was, yes. It was small toe, and it wasn't even a charge down attempt. Like, he was running towards the kicker, Harry Grant, and then the player kicked the ball, so he just ran past him.
You see him divert.
Because he was too late.
He diverts his ankle.
Yeah, exactly. And the outstretched leg of the player kicking, who I believe might have been Atkinson.
Caresses.
Yeah, caresses the thigh of Harry Grant.
What a word.
That's exactly what it was, Anth. You're on point. Yeah. Caresses the thigh of Harry Grant, okay, who's no longer going for a charge down, just running past him. Gets penalised, which was shocking enough. Then after they review the play, after they review it, decide to sin bin him. They reviewed it and still decided to sin bin him. I could not believe it.
Neither could Harry.
Yeah, he was so in shock.
I saw the look on his face was priceless. It actually sets a dangerous precedent in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Because this was very similar to what was happening in the NBA many seasons ago, where a shooter, a defender would be trying to clear out and block a shooter from shooting, but the shooter would stick his leg out to make intentional contact with the defender and then fall over, and the referee would call a foul. Then it'd be 3 free throws. So it wasn't a natural part of the shooting motion, but they were just doing it to draw contact to get a foul.
Yeah.
This is a type of thing now. I don't know how realistic this is for a kicker to do this, but a kicker can go looking, if it's not going to be detrimental to their own physical safety, they could be going out and looking for the contact as well as they follow through with their kick. Keep the leg out a bit longer, a fraction of a second longer for a person that's running by to brush them. And if you've got this as a precedent now, it's going to be a penalty every time and then potentially review. So it's something that the game, as we were talking about, there's that fine line. You got to figure out, well, what's actual dangerous contact and what wasn't so dangerous that, okay, letter of the law, maybe we penalise, but it's not going to be a sin bin.
So as we said before, to me, it comes down to intent, but also there can be a charge of carelessness. I've got no intent, but I just put my elbow in your eye. Because I've got Dave Clemmer with long elbows. So that's carelessness.
Yes.
So that there's a penalty. But
That's right.
intent, in brackets, also taking mindfulness, carelessness.
Yes.
But there's no intent. It's not careless. It was an accident.
Yeah.
Maybe a penalty, but...
There wasn't even an
accident.
initiation
It was a
of
nothing,
contact.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a nothing.
There was no initiation of contact. It was the initiation was from the kicker.
Yeah.
It was just weird. Anyway, but these are the black and white rules that they're making now, and that's what we've spoken about. You can't have black and white. There's got to be some discretion, and then that falls. Sometimes discretion can lead to bad decisions being made from the refs, and they cop criticism or whatever. So be it.
It's all part of the game.
So be it. They're going to cop criticism.
It's all part of the game.
Graham Annesley came out last week after the whole Bulldogs-Tigers thing for Casey Badger. He came out and said, it was one of the stupidest comments I've ever heard. It was in response to the criticism of Casey Badger. He said, well, the game can't happen without refs. And I'm like, that does not answer any of the criticisms. No one in the world is saying don't have refs.
Yeah.
And by the way, the game doesn't happen without the players either or the fans.
Correct.
So we can say that about anyone. The criticism was of the referee's performance. And it's okay that the referee had a bad performance. It's okay to say that. It's just a stupid comment.
Yeah. Everyone, no one is exempt from respectful criticism. We all get criticised in life. You are allowed to ask a question, okay? There was a big debate, I think it was Continuous Call Team on the weekend again, me and the radio in my travels. Big debate on who gets to speak to the referee, and I think by the letter of the law, it's just the captain.
Yeah.
But even like we saw it with, I think it happened with Birdo on Friday night.
Yeah.
He was asking the referee a question. The referee's like, no more. I'm asking a question. Blew a penalty.
Yeah.
It's like he wasn't being disrespectful. It is the heat of the moment. He does have the right to ask a question, although maybe he didn't because he's not the captain at the time. But where do you draw the line in all of this?
Yeah.
Okay. And so our referees, we're very thankful for our referees because they 90% of the time they're calling the game the way it should be called.
Yeah.
Every now and then they make a dud decision. The bunker doesn't help them. The bunker exists to help them.
No, the bunker's worse than on the field.
And it's like we're
The
supposed
bunker's
to be
responsible for most of this.
Yeah.
It's not the bunker, the people in the bunker.
And so it's a fine line that has to be drawn in a right balance. But at the end of the day, every person can be scrutinised as long as it's respectful.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, whether it's player, referee, coach, NRL, referees, boss, whoever it might be, everyone's open for criticism as long as it's respectful. But to penalise criticism...
But if I could add to that, not only should you be open to it, it actually should be welcomed. because as long as done respectfully,
Yes.
that's how you learn and grow.
Correct.
If you all everything always works out for you, well, you don't learn off that. You need to be challenged respectfully in the right context, not rude, which is not always the case. But you grow from that because it's actually not about the person; it's actually about the decisions, and then you get better in your decision making by reviewing what you did and seeing how you can do things better.
Yeah. On point.
Again, we want to keep you in Catholic Schools New South Wales, but if the NRL are looking for someone,
Honestly.
just a common sense approach, really.
Oh gosh, we need someone like you for
No,
sure.
no, shit, no. You don't want my messy desk. No, but look, it's easy to say from here, but I do think, and not going to give our little coach and character a plug. That's part of the thing.
Yeah.
Be open to criticism as long as done respectfully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. But
Good win for
Good win for
Cronulla.
the Sharks. Well done.
Up
well done.
Cronulla.
Amen. up Cronulla. All right, so we get to our last two games, the Sunday games. Extremely interesting games, I would say. Not how I thought either of them would go. So the Roosters versus the Warriors. Bips tipped the Roosters, did well, 38-18 win for the Roosters. I don't think the scoreline even comes close to depicting how much of a demolition that game was.
Yeah.
Like 20 points is still not enough.
Roosters were on a mission in the first half.
Yeah.
They were on fire.
Oh my
That
goodness.
first 20 minutes was quite impressive.
Yes. That is that's the Roosters we expected to see.
They're
at
the form
start
team of the
year.
comp at the moment, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Roosters, easy.
Easily. I think it was pretty obvious. It looked pretty obvious to me that Warriors were carrying some injuries into the game. So there were players who were not 100% fit. Like, I can almost guarantee that just by the way.
I heard Shaun Johnson was playing injured, wasn't he?
So apparently he was playing injured the past few weeks, which explains a lot.
Yeah.
He said he felt 100% coming into this game for the first time in a while. Then he got injured. Poor guy. And stayed on, which was concerning. I can't stand seeing that when a player is like in so much pain in the way Shaun Johnson was, and they just kept him on. And I think Andrew Webster sort of defended that decision to keep him on but like, come on. Like,
But I think it was his right pec, or wherever he hurt that tackle, no matter what other injuries he's carrying. If the Warriors want to go deep, they need Shaun Johnson. I just get him off. Like, if you want to go deep in the finals, you need a firing Shaun Johnson.
Yes.
Get him off and rest him, because to be honest, the game's probably over.
Yeah.
And him playing on with one arm, he's not going to win it for you.
Exactly.
Just get him off. Just rest him up. You know?
Yes, and it only aggravates the injury.
And look, I'm all about playing tough, but to me, that's not playing tough. That's playing foolish. Like, just
Look, unless it's a grand final
Yeah.
and you know
Rest
that
him
you're
up.
off after next week.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
play with an injury in a grand final, fair enough. But
Yeah.
look how we still got,
Yeah, well, now he's out for a couple of months, I think,
Yeah.
from what I read. So, just interesting.
So
decision.
Andrew Webster's a friend of a friend. Actually, he might have gone to Catholic school. I'm not sure he might have. I'll check that up for next time.
Hey,
If
that'd
I
be
ever
cool.
back, I'll check that up. He might have actually, but he's a smart guy. But just I'm surprised by that.
Yeah.
Surprised by that.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Webster.
Yeah, just surprised by that.
Yeah, been vocal about that, but yeah, that decision was weird.
but a trouncing nonetheless. They
Yes.
just got done.
Yeah.
They got done.
The halves were incredible. So I was reading comments in previous weeks when the Roosters were losing a couple of games, and the fans were calling for Keary to be dropped, which was the weirdest thing I ever heard in my life. Luke Keary is one of the most underrated halves in my opinion. And then when was it? Sunday afternoon, whatever. Sunday afternoon, he showed why. Like, he was incredible. And then Tedesco, I forgot he was a New South Welshman. Tedesco sort of said, he could fill in with all the injuries that are happening.
Isn't he one of the alumni?
Yes, Greg's Campbelltown.
Yes.
I think people forget that Tedesco was even playing for a while. But I must say, who has done very well last few weeks? Crichton. I don't know where that form's come from.
Yeah, Angus
They put
Crichton.
money on him to be an anytime try scorer. He's just scoring tries for fun at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't
Almost
know
had
that
his hat trick
combination.
too.
Yes.
Almost had a hat trick. Yeah, that's right.
We live in a very reactionary age, don't we? Where if someone has an odd game or an off game, it's like they call for blood immediately. They don't want them in the team the next week.
Yeah.
How do you build up any kind of consistency or cohesion in a team
That's
if
right.
you just drop a guy after one game? So Get better culture, honestly.
Yeah, honestly. And you could see the connection, the personal connection that he has with Sam Walker.
Yeah.
And that's to have halves partners who are that close is so important. And Sam Walker's another genius. Just after their line break, I can't remember who it was, and someone made a great try-saving tackle with Tennis Lesniak on Dom Young, I think it was. And then Sam Walker gets it from dummy half, takes a step back and kicks it across field. Like, that is such a brilliant play.
Confident play.
Confident play. He's always been a confident player, Sam Walker. And we've mentioned it past weeks, bearded Sam Walker is on a different level.
Yep.
So there's something in the beard.
Something about the beard.
But I'm excited that Sam Walker is given the opportunity by Trent Robinson to take those risks. So at a football level, I do think the Roosters need those risks to win. You can't just win defensively.
Yeah.
But then also as a fan, and I go for South, so there's no love for the Roosters. but it's good football to watch.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great football to watch.
Wonderful.
Stuff like that kick's amazing.
Yeah.
It's great to watch.
It is, honestly. And like, to be honest, Bulldog supporters,
You got to call it brilliant when it's brilliant.
Yeah, you have to. You know, I've made it no secret that I'm not a fan of the Roosters by any means, but far out, they're great. And Warriors disappointing. So hopefully they can, I don't know, pick up a few injuries. So we'll see. Final game, Titans versus Cowboys. Need I say,
The mighty Titans.
the Cowboys have absolutely broken my heart. So Titans won that game 2018. The Bips also tipped the Cowboys. So I don't know if you guys are as upset as I am. I have tipped the Cowboys week after week after week after week, and they've just constantly disappointed me. So
You want to know a summary of the Cowboys season?
sure.
Valentine Holmes getting the ball,
Oh my gosh.
being over the try line
Yes.
without putting it down, and then getting tackled and the ball comes out of his arms.
Yep.
It's like you play on the fringes for a living. You're supposed to dive.
I even Carl Felt over the line, just spilling the chocolates. Carl
Well, this
Felt.
is exactly. It wasn't the only one that happened. Semi Valame as well was over. I've never seen a team over the line botch a try so many
It's
times.
like they don't want to win.
Yeah, honestly. And I'm like sitting there in pain because I'm like, please, I just want to get my tip right. And because, well, the real hope was we made the deal last week that if the Cowboys lose this game against the Titans, because I said they've really broken my trust so much. This is the last opportunity, last chance I'm giving them. If they lose, I have to tip the Rabbitohs against the Cowboys. So that was also part of my pain was I do not want to tip the Rabbitohs against the Cowboys next week.
If any team will help the Cowboys find form, it's the Rabbits.
Yeah.
But I've
right.
been with you. Every week I pretty much tip the Cowboys because they've got a good team. I thought, Deaton's good. They're all good.
Yes.
This is going to be the week they unlock.
Yes.
It's going to be the week they unlock. And they're still locked.
Yes.
It's still
Yeah.
very locked.
So
it's getting rusty.
disappointing.
That key didn't work.
the lock is rusty. Yeah, it's not great.
That's right. So they've seriously been disappointing. The amount of botched tries, unbelievable. Over the line is unbelievable. But Titans, firstly, it's really sad because last night I was really convinced. I keep saying last night. What do I?
It was yesterday.
Whatever. Same. You know. I was so convinced for the first time in such a long time by the Titans. I said last week that I'm not that convinced yet. I was so convinced yesterday. And then now they've lost. I think Brimson got injured. Kieran Foran got injured. Pretty sure that there were 2 more players. 4 players by the end were injured. I can't remember who else. Sorry. They were key players, but I just can't remember.
Yeah.
And if they're injured in the next game, like I was ready to tip Titans for the first time.
Foran just played a defensive game and a half.
Oh, how good was
If
that?
I can interject, one of my colleagues at work, he taught for at Morris North Shore. He's a huge Foran fan. He just said that bloke would give him his right arm. He said that bloke would, like, just a leader.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've heard that about him.
If there was like trouble on the playground or something, Foran would come up and say, not in the physical way, but Foran would walk over to the person and go, mate, that's not what we do here.
Yeah.
Like that's not appropriate behaviours. Like there's
Wow.
just that leadership where the things he would do for his teammates and everything else. Like he'd go above and beyond for his teammates.
My goodness.
I love it. How good is rugby league? They booed Andrew Fafita, David Fafita, when he ran onto the field, and then he scored a try, and they're all cheering.
Yeah.
It's like the game introductions, boo, and then he scores. Yeah,
It's the team support. It's the team
is,
support.
it's team support.
But what a great win for the Titans, and to hold on with 4 players injured. Like, I know Cowboys almost won and whatever, but to hold on in the position they were in is incredible. Like, Sam Verrills and I think it was Chris Randall ended up being the halves. They're 2 fill-in hookers / lock. Like, incredible. That was so good. I was so convinced by the Titans. They did really well. Just on David Fafita. So he obviously signed with the Roosters, chose them over the Panthers. And
For unders.
yes, this is where, so people were, I can't remember who I saw, they were talking about, and they were like, oh, he took a pay cut to go to the Roosters. And they were like, oh, it's because, he wants to win a premiership and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, on the table, part of the salary cap, yeah, he's taking a pay cut, but it's the Roosters. Let's be real. He's making millions that's not on the table. It's under the table. It's not part of the salary cap. He's probably got a new car. He's got Uncle Nick's probably bought him a house, whatever. Like, there's obviously a reason he's chosen the Roosters.
It's interesting because if Penrith was the other option, how many players at Penrith have taken pay cuts to be part of the system that they've had the last few years?
Yeah. Genuine pay cuts.
Yeah, like they've actually, they believe in what they're doing at Penrith.
Yeah.
And the question around Fafita's signing with Penrith was always going to be, could he fit into that system? Is he coachable, manageable in that regard where he could fit the Penrith system for them to continue that success? And maybe, just maybe, part of the reason he didn't go with Penrith was that he wasn't able to. Could have been. Don't know. But he's signed with the Roosters, and we'll see what happens. His Roosters are losing a few names in the coming seasons.
Luke Keary is a big one.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. Time will tell, as they say. Time will tell. And that's the round.
That was round 10.
All right.
And can't remember who had the bye. Who did we not talk about? Raiders had the bye.
Raiders had the bye.
There we go.
All right. So let's quick fire this next round.
Okay, quick fire. Round 11. This is Magic Round, by the way. Every game is at Suncorp Stadium. So quick fire tips. Rob, we'd love to get your tips as well. So we've got first game, Friday night. Oh, so there's no Thursday game. Friday night, Raiders versus Bulldogs. All at Suncorp, remember? Raiders versus Bulldogs.
Oh, Raiders, just because I'm here. Just for you 3, Raiders.
Just hit me hard here, Rob.
Yeah.
Tragic.
Listen, we tip. We always say it, we tip with our heads, not our hearts. We've very rarely gone with the Bulldogs this year. Raiders, Bulldogs, Father Ben.
I think the Raiders are going to be too strong.
Interesting.
Dogs.
You went Dogs last week, Anthony. You were
Yep.
confident, and for good reason.
Hey, don't forget, Dogs had 2 tries that they almost had 2 tries. They were disallowed.
True.
They were fairly disallowed, but
Yeah,
they did cross the line an extra 2 times.
yeah, nice. And I've got Sarah's tips here as well. Our socials queen. We don't have any. I'm not going to imitate or anything for safety reasons. So we're going Raiders. So Sarah's going Raiders. I'm also going Bulldogs. So
Very good.
that's my tip. No halfback. Like KO Weeks is good, but anyway, for Raiders. How good is that? How fair is the NRL? So Magic Round, Manly versus Broncos. They've made Manly the home team at Suncorp Stadium. Isn't that just lovely? NRL.
And let me guess, it's a Friday night game.
And it's a Friday. Exactly right. And it's a Friday night.
No
Aren't they
sense
so fair?
whatsoever.
Thank God. Manly would be absolutely reeling right now that they're the home team. They'd love it.
Your tip.
Oh, Broncos.
Broncos.
Broncos at home.
Broncos.
With Dean Mariner to score a try.
Oh, yeah, nice. All right, there we go. Broncos. Sarah's also gone Broncos, and I've gone Broncos. So
There you go.
unanimous decision.
Wonderful.
All right. Now Saturday we come to our Titans versus Knights. This is Titans with a lot of injuries,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Knights.
Knights.
Yeah, Newcastle. Let's go 4 from 4 without Ponga.
Yeah, nice.
Knights.
Although some injuries with Knights as well, I believe, but
Knights.
Sarah's gone Titans, but I've gone Knights as well.
Wonderful.
But it is in Brisbane, by the way, so I don't know. Anyway. All right, quick fire. Sharks Sharks versus Roosters.
Roosters,
Nice.
but close.
That's gonna. I reckon that's the game of the round.
Yeah, has to be.
I reckon that's the game of the round, and I'm gonna go Roosters just based on what they've been able to pull off the last few weeks.
Yeah, current form.
Sharks.
Big call from the Catholic Wizard and also from our socials queen because she's gone Sharks as well. But I'm going Roosters. Now, here we go. Do you tip with your head or with your heart? Rabbitohs versus Cowboys.
Well, it is a race to the bottom there. Can there be two losers? I'd say to be Cowboys.
The game ends up in a draw.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Cowboys. Sassy Kelly
Cowboys.
be Cowboys.
Nice.
I'm gonna go Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Souths.
No way.
Yeah, I'm going to go Souths.
Are you with me? Are you with me? Yeah. I'm not alone. All right. So you're actually going Souths?
Yeah.
All right. And Socials Queen is going Cowboys.
I can't tip the Cowboys. I can't tip them.
Yeah, fair.
Can't do it.
You know what? Fair. I was actually...
And you're not allowed to tip them.
No, I'm not allowed. You know, I will stick to what I said. I'm a man of my word. I'm going Rabbitohs. I'm dreading it, but I'm also half hopeful. They've improved at least, so we'll see. Okay, I was really confused there. 3 games on Sunday. All right, yes. So Warriors versus Panthers. First Sunday game.
Panthers.
Fair.
Panthers.
Fair. Socials Queen, Panthers as well, and I'm going Panthers. Storm versus Ills. This is a good one. Mitch Moses back. No Jerome Hughes for Storm.
I'll go Storm, but I do think like Quinara, I do think the Eels have a bit of a bogey team for Storm. I think, but I will go Storm.
Storm have a lot of bogey teams.
Yes.
for such a successful team.
Yeah, Storm.
I reckon Bellamy will have them up after the way they played over the weekend. So I think Storm.
Yeah, Storm.
Sarah's gone Storm. I was going to go Eels with Mitch Moses back, but for Storm to lose 2 games in a row is highly unlikely. So I have to go Storm. And then the final game of the round, Tigers versus Dolphins. That's an interesting one. I think they versed already, didn't they? This is a reverse fixture, I believe. Anyway, I'll look at that later. But Tigers versus Dolphins.
Tigers are better, but Dolphins. After last week, Dolphins.
Yeah.
Dolphins.
Fair.
Dolphins.
Sarah's gone Dolphins too. And I'm going Dolphins as well. No Aiden Caesar. I don't think Tigers are looking very good. And Dragons have the bye after a good win over the Rabbitohs. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure Tigers already versus Dolphins, but I'm not sure. And they're our quickfire tips
For Magic Round.
for Magic Round. Yep,
Exciting weekend in Brisbane, I reckon.
it is. I've been to one Magic Round actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went
There
with
you
a
go.
mate. I don't know how I was allowed to go, but I was allowed to go. It was fun.
Good.
Ugly atmosphere though. Not a fan of being around, thousands of drunk people and
Well, that's
Or just Queenslanders.
just Queenslanders.
They weren't actually drunk.
What a rip! Yeah,
They're just Queenslanders.
Yeah, true. So true.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. No, but that's it. And then, there's one more football thing we have to do
There is one more football thing we have to do.
before we forget.
If you'll indulge us, Rob, for a moment,
Please.
go for it, Anth.
This is always nerve-wracking when we have a guest on, and I apologize for what you're about to witness. But it is now time for Father Ben's big hit of the week. And our big hit, as always, is proudly sponsored and brought to you by Totals Tours Clothing. So, as always, check out their details below. The link is below. Feel free to, there we go. Nice. Just check them out. As always, we, it's beautiful and obviously important to evangelize through our words and actions, but we can also do it through our clothing. So check out Totals Tours. All right.
Big
Father
hit.
Ben, we
Big
have a
hit.
big hit from this round. It comes pretty quickly. So it'll just be on the TV behind you. It comes quick, but then there are replays. So you don't have much time before it happens. Oh, what you're currently hearing, by the way,
Is there a...
yes, Holsworthy Barracks.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's just
so.
you're probably not going to pick that up in the background, but it almost feels as though there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah, true.
It's like a Jurassic Park.
Your water's making the droplet thing.
Yeah, it's like the ripples happening. It's like it honestly feels like there's a T-Rex moving toward us in our very luxe and
it
executive
happens
studio.
all day, every day.
Wow.
The bombs going off and the shooting practice. I hear it all day, every day, and I've learned it's almost therapeutic now.
Okay, well,
I've gotten used to it.
not for a first time. I'm sorry, I was kind of freaking out a bit. Well, let's get on to
We're
this
all
big
safe.
hit.
We're all safe.
Let's go to the big hit.
Okay, let's go. Let's have a look.
Oh, big hit, big hit.
Comes quickly.
Molo on Kepi.
That's the one. Frank Molo. Look at this.
Amazing.
This is the best angle. This one here. Oh.
Wonderful. Almost Sonny Bill-esque. With the way he leant with the shoulder, but kept the arm wrapped around for it not to be illegal contact, so that's good.
Kept the arm around. Sorry.
We've got this thing about playing with players' names, and we've turned them into dad jokes and all sorts of things. And Anthony's just coming to the party recently, and
I think that was a bit of a cricket's moment.
Yeah, better.
you could.
Appreciate it.
You could.
Poor Sean Kepi. That's his second time as a victim on this
And
segment.
thank you again to Totus Tours for sponsoring that segment. Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure. We thank you for the time that you've given us and to share with us what you're doing, the very special work that you're doing. You've got our support. We hope to have you back on in the future at some stage to talk about the ongoing projects and developments in a lot of the programs, especially that coaching for character. That sounds like something very special. So thank you for being on with us this afternoon.
And thanks for the opportunity. And I'd love to give an update in a year's time. Great.
Wonderful. God bless you, mate.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. That's another week. We're done. We're going to finish with prayer and we'll give everyone a blessing and we'll call it a day.
Sounds good.
All right. That's the
Lovely.
plan. So we just want to give thanks to God for this great episode, for the gift that you've given us in Rob and all the work that he does with his team in Catholic Schools New South Wales. We want to pray for all of those players who have been injured over the weekend, grant them peace and successful recovery. We pray also for our listeners and viewers, those who continue to support this show. Lord, we ask that you continue to bring peace into their hearts and into their homes. We ask all these prayers through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
The Lord be with you.
And with your
And may
spirit.
Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Remember, our Lord Jesus Christ says, you are the salt of the earth. So what good is salt if it loses its taste? Stay salty.
And don't be afraid to go against the grain. God bless.